Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines. US President Donald Trump says the United States could support another major strike on Iran if it rebuilds missile or nuclear programs and warns Hamas of severe consequences if it does not disarm. Speaking alongside Benjamin Netanyahu, he suggests Tehran may be trying to restore its weapons capabilities. Meanwhile, a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader warns that any aggression against the country will face an immediate harsh response after Donald Trump's comments. He says Iran's missile and defense capabilities are not containable and will be used if provoked. Trump also says the United States has destroyed a docking area used for alleged Venezuelan drug-running boats, calling it a major strike in the anti-narcotics campaign. He says the blast took out boats and the loading area, but declines to provide details on the location or the operation. China launches rockets around Taiwan as a second day of live fire drills begins, with footage showing rockets firing from the coast. Taiwan says it detects a surge in military activity, including 130 aircraft and multiple Navy and government vessels. The Saudi-led coalition says it will carry out a military operation in Yemen and orders civilians to immediately evacuate the port city of Mulakala. The alliance says the evacuation is to protect civilians as it prepares action against separatist forces. Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia dies at age 80, Bangladesh National Party has announced. The party said that she passed away early on Tuesday and asks supporters to pray for her. Russia accuses Ukraine of trying to attack President Vladimir Putin's residence and vows retaliation while providing no evidence. Ukraine denies the claim as fabricated and says the row threatens already difficult peace talks. Israel defends its recognition of Somaliland as an independent state as several countries at the UN question whether the move is linked to Palestinian displacement or military bases. The Arab League says it rejects any actions that could facilitate forced displacement of Palestinians or use Somali ports for military purposes. Now, those are the headlines for the hour, but we start with the ongoing situation between the United States and Venezuela. And tensions are rising between Washington and Caracas after President Donald Trump confirmed a recent strike on a drug trafficking facility inside Venezuela. Trump revealed that US forces targeted a dock area used to load boats with drugs. The operation reportedly destroyed the boats, but details remain unclear. Reports suggest the CIA may have conducted a drone strike on a remote port earlier this month, targeting the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, suspected of trafficking drugs. The Pentagon and White House have yet to comment. Listen in to US President Donald Trump's statements.
Can you say anything more about the explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in a radio interview? Did the military do that? Can you share more details about that?
Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Meanwhile, the US military reports 2 people were killed in a strike on a suspected drug smuggling boat in the Eastern Pacific. This brings the total death toll in Washington's campaign in the region to at least 107. US Southern Command confirmed the vessel was operating along known narco-trafficking routes. This operation is part of a broader US effort to intensify pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government, including a significant military buildup in the Caribbean. Joining us now in this discussion is Matthew Vadum, an American journalist and author. He joins us live from the American capital of Washington, D.C. Matthew, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Of course, this has been a long-running campaign which has seen at least 107 people killed. However, what is lacking in both of the operations that we just mentioned is evidence provided by the United States government, giving all the scrutiny of the operations. Why has no independent verification been released? Matthew, I'm unsure if you can hear me or not. Do give me a sign if you can. I apologize, we seem to be having some issues there with the guest. Hopefully we will get back to you on that. Of course, this is an ongoing situation between Venezuela and the United States. Donald Trump, a long critic of Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan president. Okay, Matthew joins us once again. Matthew, apologies about that. Of course, this has been an ongoing situation, both the striking of boats and now this new port strike inside Venezuela. Of course, critics say that no evidence has been produced in regards to these strikes. Why has no independent verification been released?
I'm not sure. Are people saying that they doubt that the U.S. conducted the strike, or perhaps they're questioning whether it was effective and whether the loading dock was actually destroyed by U.S. By U.S. forces? So maybe they're just saying that President Trump is talking big and not backing up his allegations with evidence. So I imagine perhaps that's what they're doing. If the United States has evidence that they have destroyed the dock, then they probably will produce it. Maybe they don't want to release it immediately for myriad reasons. They might they might not have it yet. They might just be preparing it for release to the public. There are many different reasons. If they don't come up with it, at all, then obviously people are going to question whether the strike took place.
Well, indeed, and of course, there has to be legal authorizations here, both domestic and international. Many critics of the Trump administration have said that why isn't the US, the most powerful military and most capable military in the world, providing evidence for these operations, which some say violate international law?
Right. Yes, many countries say that this violates international law, and this is an open question. It's the United States position that the Maduro government in Venezuela is an illegitimate dictatorship. And it's pretty clear, even though the Trump administration rarely says this outright, that they want regime change in Venezuela. They want Maduro gone, and that's why they're ramping up all this pressure, such as attacking the alleged drug-running boats and seizing oil tankers on the high seas, which is being done. Has a twofold purpose. That is to put pressure on the Venezuelan government and to execute civil court judgments that have been that Venezuela has ignored. And so, it's a twofold justification for that. And many people say that it's not legitimate. And but the U.S. Congress, when given an opportunity fairly recently to curb the war powers of President Trump, decided not to do so. So under the way that the American system works, he doesn't have explicit authorization to do it, but he also is the commander-in-chief of U.S. military forces, and so acting on his own authority under the Constitution, he can do it. Now, he could be held responsible for these actions later. The U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives could impeach him, and they could try him in the Senate, saying that he abused his constitutional authority as president. But in practical terms, there's really nothing that can be done to stop the Trump administration from ramping up pressure on Venezuela and from carrying out various military actions against it.
Yeah, and Matthew, and other than the concerns over international law and the evidence, of course, President Donald Trump campaigned on the aspect that the United States wouldn't be dragged into what he called forever wars, foreign wars. Donald Trump, of course, a long-time critic of the US actions in Iraq. Are you concerned that this might escalate into something that the American people don't want?
Well, that is, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it keeps me up. It keeps me awake at night. The thought of overthrowing a socialist, communist dictator doesn't give me nightmares, if that's what you're asking. But ideally, he should have authorization from Congress to do this. And considering that Republicans have narrow majorities in both the U.S. House of Representatives and the United States Senate, there's a good chance he would secure that authorization if it were put to a vote. So, I'm not, and I don't feel sorry for the Venezuelan regime under Nicolas Maduro. If that's what you're getting at, this is not a guy who deserves to stay in power. The question is what the United States has to do in order to effect a regime change there. And, some critics like Senator Rand Paul, Republican Kentucky, have been saying that, is largely an ally of Trump, saying that he is exceeding his authority and that he doesn't have any lawful power to do what he's doing. But for the time being, nobody can stop him from doing what he's doing.
Okay, Matthew, do stay with us as we have some breaking news coming out of the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia has confirmed it bombed the port city of Mukalla in retaliation for a weapons shipment allegedly sent from the United Arab Emirates. The shipment, destined for separatist forces in the region, prompted the Saudi strike. Saudi officials claim the shipment of weapons was intended for the separatist forces in southern Yemen, escalating concerns about regional instability. The UAE has not publicly commented on the attack or the accusations as of yet. And the bombing of Mukalla is a part of a broader military campaign as the conflict in Yemen continues to drag on, causing significant humanitarian consequences. We'll continue to bring you all the developments from that story as the day goes on. But we turn back to the United States, and President Donald Trump has issued a sharp warning to Hamas, saying there will be hell to pay if the group fails to disarm within a short period. Speaking alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump dismissed suggestions of differences with Israel over the Gaza ceasefire, saying Israel has lived up to the plan in full. Trump said he has no concerns about Israel's actions and praised its implementation of the agreement, while directing his criticism at Hamas. The ceasefire, which took effect in October, has failed to fully halt violence, with hundreds of Palestinians reported killed since its declaration and Israeli soldiers also killed. Trump said the US wants the truce to hold, but stressed that Hamas must disarm or face serious consequences. Let's take a listen in to the statements.
About Hamas, and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm, and we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side, but if they don't disarm as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a fair. I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing. I'm concerned about what other people are doing or maybe aren't doing. But I'm not concerned. They've lived up to the plan.
Matthew joins us once again. Of course, the first phase of the ceasefire, which was came into operation on October the 10th, has indeed have much criticism. We've had 2 IDF deaths since the ceasefire began, and over 400 Palestinian ones. Now, of course, this first phase, one of its key points was that violence will cessate. Of course, that hasn't happened, along with the full flow of aid into the enclave. What evidence does Washington really rely on to conclude Israel has complied fully in this first phase of the ceasefire agreement?
Well, the United States has been monitoring the activities in Gaza very closely. I assume through intelligence gathering. President Trump is quite interested in the success of the Gaza peace plan, and he wants it to be to take effect, and he wants it to lead to a durable peace. The United States customarily, has observers, and it uses field gathering information gathering techniques. It uses satellite technology. It has a number of ways that it can ascertain what's going on in the ground in Gaza. And it doesn't share this information, at least not while it's happening, with reporters like me. These things are secret on national security grounds, and sometimes the information is released to the public later. So we don't know exactly how they're doing it, but I don't have any doubt that the United States is highly involved in monitoring what is going on in Gaza right now, and that they want the Trump administration is quite committed to the plan succeeding. There have reportedly been violations of the ceasefire agreement on both sides, but President Trump wants to move on to the second phase of the peace plan, which is establishing, and I think they call it a peace council, an internationally staffed peace council that will oversee what is going on in Gaza. Hamas has not, at least so far, given up its arms, and that is a sticking point. If it doesn't give up its arms, then it will be in violation of the draft peace agreement, and that would give Israel reasons to try to enforce it with the backing of the United States.
Israel's killed over 400 people inside the Gaza Strip since this ceasefire has started. How can the American president expect Hamas to disarm if Israel continues its violence inside the enclave?
Well, and were those 400 people terrorists? There have been bands of apparently people authorized by Hamas carrying out carrying out acts of violent retaliation against people who are deemed to have been collaborators with Israel. And so, I don't know what the breakdown of the 400 people is that you mentioned, but I know that Hamas's, their argument, there are reports that both sides have not been abiding 100% by the first phase of the peace plan, but it's pretty fair. It's pretty obvious that Hamas does not have clean hands here, and that they are not doing everything they can to cooperate with enforcing the terms of the ceasefire. Okay. Whether Hamas is a worse offender than Israel, I can't really say.
Okay, Matthew Verdum, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We now move on and say US President Donald Trump says Russian President Vladimir Putin told him Ukraine attempted an attack on Putin's residence in northern Russia, an allegation Kiev has firmly denied, warning it could be used as a pretext for escalation. Speaking to reporters, Trump said he was very angry after learning of the claim from Putin, calling it a delicate period, and Trump said attacking a leader's residence was not the right time and could complicate efforts to broker peace between Moscow and Kiev. Listen in to what the US president had to say on the issue.
I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, you know, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, you know, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they're offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry.
This comes after the Kremlin, through Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, accused Ukraine of launching 91 drones at Putin's official residence in the Novgorod region, located between Moscow and St. Petersburg. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov described the incident as a terrorist attack and said Moscow would revise its negotiating position on ending the war. Russian air defenses, he said, destroyed all the drones. Ukraine strongly rejected the accusation, and President Vladimir Zelensky called the claim another lie from the Russian Federation, saying Moscow was laying the groundwork to justify new strikes. The conflicting claims come amid intense diplomatic efforts to revive negotiations, with fears that any escalation could derail fragile attempts to move towards a ceasefire. Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar joins us now, an international relations and defence expert, joining us live from New Delhi. Of course, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have this direct line of contact. Do you see problems arising there? Of course, this hasn't been approved by American intelligence. This operation is simply coming out of Vladimir Putin's mouth. Could this be a way to derail peace from Moscow?
Good morning, Thomas. I think things are not happening in the right direction towards a ceasefire, because these kind of claims can derail the process of ceasefire. And Trump and Putin are in direct contact. That is one positive signal, but Zelensky so far is not falling in line. And there is a stand of the European Union also, which is contrary to what Trump is trying to do. So these incidents do complicate issues, and at the same time, a narrative, it pushes a narrative from the Russians also to escalate. Because what Russians are, if you would have observed in the last about 60 days or so, there has been a significant escalation on the Russian side, targeting Ukrainian energy centers.
That's
and
right.
And various other centers. What we have seen, even we have seen it happening in Odessa also. So we can expect now, because Putin, if you are going to attack a residence of the Russian president, I think you're asking for the trouble, because there is a political intent also, because the people of a nation also would like to see the response of the Russians now, in case this is credible information, because so far I think independent verification of the information is required to be done. Kyiv is said that it is not it is not done. This attack has not actually come from their side. So all these things in the fog of war, truth is the biggest casualty. So we exactly don't know whether it is a deliberate attempt by Zelensky to strike at Putin's residence, because he very well knows that in case he does that, they'll be held to pay.
Yes.
And that is what I think is going to happen now, because these talks already are in a very delicate phase, and the Russian stance can harden now, further harden. And I think Putin is also interested to harden the stand, because right now the there are no positive signals emanating
Okay.
from Kyiv. So I think this is also part of pressure tactics also on part of Russia on Kyiv to come on the negotiating table. So it'll be very interesting to watch the next couple of days, where this goes.
Indeed. Dr. Kochar, of course, this comes less than 24 hours since Zelensky and President Trump met in Washington, in Mar-a-Lago. Although Donald Trump's statements there next to Benjamin Netanyahu, he seemed to verify the claims himself, and saying that he said that he's not happy about this attack, which hasn't been independently verified. Is the US president effectively echoing the Kremlin's narrative here?
To a large extent, because he and Putin, I think, because they have been communicating with each other quite frequently, and I think Trump and Putin are on the same page. And if they are on the same page, then it does not augur well with for Zelensky, because in case Zelensky is not going to come to the table, what are the options for him? Is he going to keep the battle on, and does he have the capability to keep the battle on? Because in case United States is not going to help him militarily in terms of ammunition and in terms of other things, then how does he keep this battle on? So I think, according to my assessment, these are hedging tactics on the part of Zelensky, and I don't think they're going to last for long, because it has to culminate very fast. And the way things are progressing, maybe in a couple of months, we will actually have the ceasefire coming in.
General Dr. Rajan Kochar, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you on the programme, as always. We now move on and over to the Taiwan Strait, and China has fired rockets into the Taiwan Strait as it continues its live fire drills around Taiwan for a second day. The drills, which includes naval and air exercises, come after the US announced a massive arms sale to Taiwan, angering Beijing. China claims these drills are aimed at separatist forces in Taiwan and external interference. Taiwan's defense ministry reported over 130 Chinese military aircraft near the island, with 90 crossing the unofficial median line in the strait. Taiwan has responded by deploying its own military forces, and President Lai Ching-te assured the public that Taiwan will act responsibly, avoiding further escalation. US President Donald Trump, however, downplayed the drills, calling them a long-standing routine, and emphasized his strong relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Listen in to President Donald Trump's statements on the issue.
Well, I have a great relationship with President Xi, and he hasn't told me anything about it. I certainly have seen it, but he hasn't told me anything about it, and I don't believe he's going to be doing it.
We move now on to some news from the tech world, and Meta has announced it will acquire Chinese artificial intelligence startup Manus as the Facebook owner accelerates efforts to embed advanced AI across its platforms amid intensifying global competition. The deal comes as major technology companies race to secure cutting-edge AI capabilities through acquisitions and high-profile talent hires. Earlier this year, Meta invested in data labeling firm Scale AI, valuing it at $29 billion and bringing its founder Alexander Wang into the company. While financial terms of the Manus acquisition were not disclosed, Meta said it will operate and sell up the startup's general-purpose AI agent while integrating the technology into its consumer and business offerings, including Meta AI. Singapore-based Manus develops AI agents designed to function like digital employees, capable of independently verifying and handling tasks such as research, automation, and complex workflows with minimal human input. Earlier this year, the company claimed its AI agent outperformed a comparable system from OpenAI. Manus is part of a growing wave of Chinese technology firms relocating to Singapore, seeking to reduce exposure to escalating Sino-US geopolitical tensions while maintaining access to global markets. That's all that we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more international updates.